Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The city skyline stretched out before Theo as he gazed through the penthouse suite window. His reflection stared back at him, a man in his early 30s with tousled brown hair and tired eyes, dressed impeccably in a tailored gray suit. He sighed, adjusting his blue silk tie for the 100th time that morning. Another day of catering to Jackson's every whim lay ahead. "Where's my coffee, Theodore?" A sharp voice barked from the adjoining room. Theo winced at the use of his full name. "Coming right up, Mr. Sterling," he called back, hurrying to the kitchenette. As he prepared the pour-over coffee exactly to Jackson's exacting specifications, Theo reflected on how he'd ended up here. 5 years as executive assistant to one of the most notoriously difficult venture capitalists in Silicon Valley had taken their toll. The constant belittling, impossibly long hours, and borderline abusive behavior from his boss had worn away at Theo's once cheerful demeanor. But the pay was exceptional, and Theo needed the money to support his ailing mother. So he gritted his teeth and soldiered on, day after grueling day. "Theodore, what's taking so long?" Jackson shouted impatiently. "Just finishing up, sir," Theo replied, carefully carrying the steaming mug into the main room. Jackson Sterling cut an imposing figure, even lounging on the plush leather sofa in silk pajamas. In his late 40s, he exuded an aura of wealth and power. His salt and pepper hair was artfully styled, and his steel gray eyes held a predatory gleam as they fixed on Theo. "About time," Jackson grumbled, snatching the mug from Theo's hands. He took a sip and grimaced. "Ugh, this is lukewarm. Make it again." Theo bit back a retort. The coffee was piping hot. Jackson was just being difficult, as usual. "Of course, Mr. Sterling. My apologies." As Theo turned to head back to the kitchen, Jackson's voice stopped him. "And, Theodore, don't forget we have that meeting with the Al-Fayed group this afternoon. I need you to pick up my dry cleaning and have it sent over. The navy Brioni suit. Yes, sir, I'll take care of it right away. See that you do, and try not to screw it up this time." Theo clenched his jaw as he prepared a fresh cup of coffee. This business trip to Dubai was shaping up to be even more stressful than he'd anticipated. He longed for a break, just a moment of peace away from Jackson's constant demands. Little did Theo know that his wish was about to be granted in the most unexpected way imaginable. The scorching desert sun beat down on Theo as he hurried along the crowded street, Jackson's freshly pressed suit draped carefully over one arm. He'd managed to find the exclusive tailor shop his boss favored, but now he was running behind schedule for the big meeting. Sweat trickled down his back, and he loosened his tie slightly. The sooner he could get back to the air-conditioned hotel, the better. As Theo rounded a corner, a glint of metal caught his eye. Half buried in the sand near a dilapidated storefront was what appeared to be an old oil lamp. Its brass surface was dull and tarnished, but something about it drew Theo's attention. Glancing at his watch, Theo hesitated. He really didn't have time for distractions. But something compelled him to stoop down and brush away the sand, revealing the lamp's elegant curved handle and spout. "Huh," Theo murmured, picking it up. It was heavier than he expected, and intricately engraved with swirling patterns. Wonder how long this has been here? He started to set it back down, then paused. It would probably just get buried in the sand again, or thrown away. On impulse, Theo tucked the lamp into his briefcase. Maybe he could clean it up later. It might make a neat souvenir. With one last glance at the mysterious lamp, Theo hurried on his way, unaware that he'd just set in motion a chain of events that would change his life forever. "You're late!" Jackson snapped as Theo rushed into the hotel suite, suit and briefcase in hand. "I apologize, Mr. Sterling. There was unexpected traffic." "Save your excuses," Jackson interrupted, snatching the garment bag from Theo. "I don't pay you to dawdle. Now make yourself useful and prepare my notes for the meeting." Theo swallowed his retort and got to work, spreading out files on the mahogany desk. As he organized Jackson's presentation materials, his thoughts kept drifting to the strange lamp in his briefcase. There was something almost magical about it.
"Theodore, focus, for God's sake,"
Jackson barked, jolting Theo from his reverie.
"I swear it's like herding cats with you sometimes. Now, what's our angle on the Al-Fayed proposal?"
The next few hours passed in a blur of numbers, projections, and thinly veiled threats as Jackson rehearsed his pitch. By the time they left for the meeting, Theo's head was pounding. He trailed behind Jackson as they entered the opulent boardroom, forcing a polite smile as he greeted the assembled executives. As usual, Jackson barely acknowledged Theo's presence, shoving his briefcase at him before glad-handing the Al-Fayed Group's CEO. Theo settled into a chair in the corner, poised to take notes. But as the meeting dragged on, he found his attention wandering again. There was a strange warmth emanating from his briefcase, almost like it was humming? Surreptitiously, Theo unzipped the bag and peered inside. His eyes widened. The old brass lamp was glowing faintly, pulsing with an inner light. "Wouldn't you agree, Theodore?" Theo's head snapped up to find everyone staring at him expectantly. Jackson's eyes narrowed dangerously. Yes, absolutely," Theo stammered, having no idea what he was agreeing to. Jackson's lip curled in disgust.
"Useless,"
he muttered, turning back to the group.
"As I was saying."
Theo's cheeks burned with humiliation. He'd never felt so small, so insignificant. In that moment, he would have given anything for a way out, anything to never have to endure Jackson's scorn again. As if in response to his silent plea, the lamp in his briefcase grew warmer. Theo stared at it in disbelief. It couldn't be. Could it? The rest of the meeting passed in a daze. Theo was hyper-aware of the mysterious object tucked away in his bag, its presence seeming to grow stronger by the minute. When the executives finally stood to shake hands, Theo breathed a sigh of relief. He gathered Jackson's materials quickly, eager to escape. "A moment, Theodore." Jackson's cold voice cut through Theo's thoughts.
"I'd like a word."
Theo's heart sank as the others filed out, leaving him alone with his irate boss. Jackson's eyes flashed dangerously. "What the hell was that in there? I ask you to do one simple thing.
Pay attention and back me up. And you can't even manage that?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. It won't happen again." "Damn right it won't," Jackson snarled. "Because if you ever embarrass me like that again, you'll be out on your ass so fast your head will spin. Do I make myself clear?"
Theo nodded mutely, shame and anger roiling in his gut.
"Good. Now get out of my sight. I'll expect a full report on my desk first thing tomorrow."
As Theo turned to leave, Jackson's voice stopped him once more. "Oh, and Theodore? Cancel my dinner reservations for tonight. I have a date with that lovely translator from the Arabic firm. I won't be needing your services this evening." The lascivious smirk on Jackson's face made Theo's skin crawl. It wasn't the first time his boss had used his position to pursue beautiful young women, but it never failed to disgust him. "Yes, sir," Theo managed through gritted teeth. He stalked out of the boardroom, fists clenched at his sides. The injustice of it all crashed over him in waves as he made his way back to his much smaller hotel room. How many more years could he endure this treatment? The constant belittling, the impossible demands, the casual cruelty. Theo slammed the door behind him and sank onto the bed, head in his hands. He'd reached his breaking point. Something had to change. As if on cue, a soft glow filled the room. Theo looked up in amazement to see the old brass lamp floating out of his open briefcase, suspended in midair. Before Theo's disbelieving eyes, a swirl of iridescent smoke began to pour from the lamp spout. It coalesced into a vaguely humanoid shape, growing more defined by the second. Theo scrambled backward on the bed, heart pounding. This couldn't be real. He must be dreaming or hallucinating from stress. But as the smoke dissipated, a figure stood before him that was undeniably, impossibly real. He was tall and muscular, with deep bronze skin and eyes that glowed like embers. A neatly trimmed beard framed a face that seemed both ancient and ageless. He wore flowing robes of midnight blue, embroidered with silver stars that twinkled and shifted as he moved. "Greetings, O finder of my lamp," the being intoned, his voice rich and resonant.
I am Omar, Djinn of the 7 deserts. You have awakened me from my slumber, and in return, I shall grant you 3 wishes.
Theo gaped at the Djinn, unable to form words. This was impossible. Magical lamps, wish-granting genies, these things didn't exist in the real world. And yet, here was Omar, radiating otherworldly power as he regarded Theo with infinite patience. This can't be happening, Theo finally managed. Genies aren't real. Omar's lips quirked in amusement.
I assure you, I am quite real. Though I prefer the term Djinn, genie has rather cartoonish connotations these days.
Theo shook his head, trying to clear it.
Okay, let's say for a moment I believe you're real. Why me? Why now? The lamp chooses its finder, Omar replied enigmatically. You were meant to discover it, meant to release me. Now you must decide how to use the power I offer. 3 wishes, Theo murmured. Anything I want, Omar held up a hand. Almost anything. There are a few restrictions. I cannot kill anyone, make someone fall in love, or bring back the dead. Beyond that, your imagination is the only limit.
Theo's mind raced with possibilities. With 3 wishes, he could change his entire life. No more slaving away for Jackson, no more financial struggles. He could have wealth, fame, power. But as quickly as the thoughts came, Theo dismissed them. He'd seen firsthand how destructive unchecked greed could be, and there was something off about wishing for money or success. It felt hollow somehow. No, if he was really going to do this, Theo wanted his wishes to mean something, to make a real difference. And suddenly, he knew exactly what his first wish would be. All right, Theo said, squaring his shoulders as he faced the Djinn.
I'm ready for my first wish.
Omar inclined his head. Speak it, and it shall be done. Theo took a deep breath. I wish for Jackson Sterling to be unable to harm me, physically, emotionally, or professionally, ever again. A slow smile spread across Omar's face. An interesting choice. Very well. The Djinn raised his hands, and a shower of golden sparks erupted from his fingertips. They swirled around Theo, sinking into his skin with a warm tingle.
It is done,
Omar intoned.
Jackson Sterling can no longer cause you harm in any way.
Theo let out a shaky breath, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time in years, he felt truly safe. Thank you, he said softly. Omar nodded.
You have used your first wish wisely. What would you ask for your second?
Theo hesitated. Now that he was protected from Jackson's abuse, a new possibility occurred to him. A way to not just shield himself, but to truly make Jackson understand the harm he'd caused.
For my second wish,
Theo said slowly,
I want you to turn Jackson into a woman. Not just any woman. I want him to become his own ideal female form. Beautiful, young, exactly the type of woman he's always objectified and pursued.
Omar's eyebrows rose.
An unusual request. Are you certain this is what you desire?
Theo nodded firmly.
Yes, I want Jackson to experience life from the other side, to know what it feels like to be judged solely on appearance, to be underestimated and dismissed. Very well, Omar said. Your wish is my command.
The Djinn clapped his hands together, and a blinding flash of light filled the room. Theo shielded his eyes, heart pounding with anticipation. When the glow faded, Omar smiled.
It is done.
Jackson Sterling is now a woman, young, beautiful, and utterly transformed. Theo's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't wait to see the results of his wish. But there was one more thing he needed to do first.
I'm ready for my final wish,
Theo said. Omar tilted his head curiously.
So soon? Most mortals take more time to consider their last request. I know exactly what I want, Theo replied. For my third wish, I want you to make it so Jackson has always been a woman. Rewrite history so that she was born female and adjust everyone's memories accordingly.
The Djinn's eyes widened.
A profound wish indeed. You understand the implications. Your own memories of the previous wishes, of my very existence, will be erased.
Theo nodded.
I know. but it's the only way for this to truly work. Jackson needs to have lived her entire life as a woman to really understand. Omar studied Theo for a long moment. Your motivations are complex, mortal. Revenge, yes, but also a desire for justice, for growth. Very well. Your final wish shall be granted. The Djinn raised his arms, and the air around them began to shimmer and warp. Theo felt a curious lightness, as if he were floating out of his own body. Farewell, Theo, Omar's voice echoed distantly. May you find the peace you seek. There was a deafening rush of wind, and then darkness. Sunlight streamed through gauzy curtains, painting patterns on rumpled silk sheets. Theo stirred, blinking away the last vestiges of sleep. He stretched languidly, a contented smile spreading across his face as memories of the previous night washed over him. A soft murmur beside him drew his attention. Theo rolled over, drinking in the sight of his new wife's sleeping form. Amanda's long lashes fluttered against her cheeks, her full lips slightly parted as she dozed. Even after a month of marriage, Theo still marveled at how lucky he was. To think just a year ago he'd been Amanda Sterling's lowly assistant, pining after her from afar. Now, here he was, on their honeymoon in a luxurious Maldives resort, married to the woman of his dreams. Theo brushed a strand of hair from Amanda's face, marveling at how peaceful she looked in sleep. Gone was the hard-edged businesswoman he'd first met. In her place was a warm, vibrant woman who matched him step for step, challenging and supporting him in equal measure. Amanda's eyes fluttered open, a slow smile spreading across her face as she focused on Theo. "Good morning, husband," she murmured, voice husky with sleep. "Good morning, wife," Theo replied, leaning in to hug her softly. Amanda hummed happily against his lips, then pulled back with a playful gleam in her eye. "You know, I'm still not used to that. After all those years as your boss, it's strange to think of you as my husband." Theo chuckled. "Believe me, I know the feeling. Sometimes I still can't believe you agreed to marry me." Amanda's expression softened. She reached up to cup Theo's cheek, her touch infinitely tender. "Marrying you was the best decision I've ever made. You've made me a better person, Theo. Kinder, more empathetic." Theo leaned into her touch, warmth blooming in his chest. "You've changed me too. Taught me to stand up for myself, to go after what I want." "We make a good team," Amanda said with a smile. "The best," Theo agreed, pulling her close. As they lay tangled together, basking in the morning sunlight, Theo felt a profound sense of rightness. This was where he was meant to be, where they were both meant to be. Whatever twist of fate had brought them together, Theo was eternally grateful. He had everything he'd ever wanted, and more importantly, he had helped Amanda become the amazing woman she was always meant to be. It was, Theo reflected, like a wish come true, and he intended to treasure every moment of their happily ever after. Over the next few weeks, Theo and Amanda settled into a blissful routine of sun, sand, and newlywed indulgence. They spent long days exploring the pristine beaches and crystal-clear waters surrounding their private villa, marveling at the vibrant marine life teeming beneath the waves. In the evenings, they dined on exquisite local cuisine, savoring fresh seafood and exotic fruits as they watched the sun sink below the horizon in a blaze of color. Nights were filled with passion and whispered endearments as they reveled in their new intimacy. But it wasn't all idle pleasure. Even on their honeymoon, Amanda's sharp business mind never fully switched off. Theo often found her poring over reports on her tablet, brow furrowed in concentration as she analyzed market trends and investment opportunities. Rather than feeling neglected, Theo admired his wife's dedication and drive. He was happy to act as a sounding board, offering insights and suggestions as Amanda outlined her plans for expanding Sterling Ventures into new markets. "What do you think about branching into sustainable energy?" Amanda asked one afternoon as they lounged by their private pool. She was stunning in an emerald green bikini,
her sun-kissed skin glowing against the vibrant fabric. Theo considered the question, idly tracing patterns on Amanda's bare shoulder.
I think it's a smart move. Renewable energy is only going to become more important in the coming years, and it's a field that's ripe for innovation.
Amanda nodded, a familiar gleam of excitement in her eyes. Exactly. I've been looking into some promising startups working on new solar cell technology. If we get in on the ground floor, we could be at the forefront of a major shift in the energy sector. Sounds like you've got it all figured out, Theo said with a smile.
Just remember to leave a little room in that brilliant mind of yours for relaxation. We are on our honeymoon, after all.
Amanda's lips curved in a mischievous smirk. Oh, don't worry. I haven't forgotten. She set aside her tablet and moved to straddle Theo's lap, winding her arms around his neck. In fact, I think it's time for a little hands-on market research. Theo laughed, pulling her close. I like the way you think, Mrs. Sterling Cheney. As they lost themselves in each other, all thoughts of business faded away. In moments like these, nothing existed but the two of them and the love they shared. Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.